And because there are still a lot of chefs out there that, as I call it, the Hollywood syndrome, where everything has got to be all about them. You know, check out my technique, check out what I'm doing, look at what I'm bringing to the plate, look at my restaurant, look at me. Hey, I'm Chris Scott, and I'm a chef here in New York City. Been cooking for about 30 years, you know, in restaurants in New York and Philadelphia. It's been a wonderful journey, and I'm glad to be here.
I mean, you did say that they have all that talent in Dallas. Of course, they got Zeke, they got Amari Cooper, they got Dak.
Yeah, they got everybody. They got everybody.
Do you think it's part of that Philadelphian culture to have that knit and grit? Not always have the most talent, but you know you're going to work hard.
Of course. You know, the one thing about me personally is that, you know, it's all heart. You know, I might not be, you know, the flashiest chef. I might not be like the most finesse on the plate, you know, and this or that. But what I do have is that heart and grit and grime to claw my way to wherever it is that I need to be, and to put myself up there with whoever I need to be up there with. You know what I mean? Like I won't lose. It's like Rocky, you know, in Rocky 2, where he looks over to Mick and he says, "I'm not going down no more," you know, and he gets his ass kicked basically by Creed throughout the rest of the fight, but he doesn't go down. And when you know it, he wins at the end, you know?
Exactly. I love that one Rocky quote. It goes, it's not about how hard you get hit, or it's not about how hard you hit, it's about how hard you get hit and get up and keep on fighting.
That's right.
How do you think that kind of revolves around Philadelphian culture?
I think that every single person born, raised, and has that grit in their heart, we all know that. You know, my wife actually teases me and she goes, "You know, Rocky's not actually a real person, right?" And I say to her, "No, he is. He's real. You know, he's a champ, you know," because I mean, it's just that type of foundation in our heart. You know, to not give up and to keep on going no matter what life throws at you, no matter what, if it is that you're sick or you're poor or you're broke or you're coming up or you're held down or whatever, you know, like, it's almost like, yo, I'm gonna win this thing. You know, I'm gonna keep on fighting until I'm at the top, no matter how much I get hit or cut or bruised or spit on or stomped. I'm winning everything, you know? That's what.
And you got that big last game coming up against the Giants. Are you going to be at that game?
Probably not. I mean, I'm hoping that at that time that we are sort of in a good position to win the East, you know? But these days, with all the cold weather and it's been really wet here in New York for the last maybe two or 3 weeks, that I'll probably stay at home and watch it on TV.
I mean, that's a good call.
Right.
Yeah. Now, going on to the second segment of our interview, we kind of just focus on your career, of course, as a chef. Can you kind of take us through the journey that you've gone through, maybe some of the moments that have stood out for you?
You know, I've been cooking now, just like I said, for about 30 years, and the journey has been fantastic. You know, of course, there are the highs, the super highs, and the super lows, and parts of it where it just is like this one line of numbness, you know, where you don't feel any change whatsoever. But in retrospect, you look back on that, and every single moment that you're in the kitchen, you are moving forward and you are growing, even if you don't see it. You know, I started out, you know, back in the 80s where there weren't many Black folk in the kitchen, you know, and I would work my time, and then after that I would kind of clock out and then work an entire shift for free, just so that I could be with the elite chefs and kind of see what they're doing and learn what they're doing and kind of show my worth, because I knew that I could do what they're doing if I just applied myself more and more and more, and then once they kind of recognized that I had the heart to do it and to stay with it, then I actually had a position on the hotline, and then kind of worked my way up and more and more and more and more, to where I developed more pastry skills. And pastry is really my true heart in the field, but I'm pretty good on the savory side as well, to where the chef would either pull me from sweets to do savory, and so back and forth. But you just kind of keep on climbing, and keep on learning, keep on, applying what you learned, listening, and just really kind of keeping yourself kind of grounded to where you don't want to give up. There have been many chefs that I started with who just kind of gave up, and now they're selling shoes, or working, at Home Depot or something like that, because, it's too tough for them. Now, it's the kind of job where you don't see your friends, where you don't see your family. You have 30-second deadlines every 30 seconds. You're working in environments where, at least back in my day, to where you would get yelled at. Alcohol abuse and drug abuse is heavy, on top of chefs telling you that you ain't shit, so you have all of that weight coming down on you, to where the only option would be, let me get the hell out of this kitchen, but you really have to love it and see beyond that to keep on moving forward, and being a young Black chef during those times, I was catching that, and the stigma of, he's just a Black chef, he's only going to make this type of food, he's only going to be this type of person. The mindset of most executive chefs at that time weren't as diverse as they are now, to have a more open scope, of what kitchen work can be all about, and bringing in the quality and the strength of all the players, not just some. So just keep on climbing that ladder. Even now, even with all the success and accolades and everything that I've gotten, there are still premier kitchens in this country where there aren't that many people of color still, and it's unfortunate, but I think in all, we're in a much better place than we were 25 years ago, to where, things are much better now,
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask, how has the environment of the kitchen changed in all these years? But it seems like a big part of it is just acceptance and equality and bringing people together.
Yeah, I mean, these days, you might not work in a kitchen where the chef is losing his mind or her mind. They're not kind of degrading you and everything. I think that the culture has certainly changed. Back in my day, they would break you down emotionally and spiritually. Some would even put their hands on you. These days, it's more about mentorship and nurturing, and that is very, very good and very, very important.
Now, of course, that tough love aspect of teaching doesn't exactly work for everyone. Was it something that you think that worked for you, or were you more of, the mentorship side?
I think, in my 20s, it worked for me. I mean, but I come from a broken home, to where I was still kind of getting that kind of tough love from my family, so kind of getting that at work, it was tough, and there were times when it did break me, but it kind of groomed me into the chef that I am now. And I think that it's in a metaphor, those attacks from the chef were like those hits that Rocky was getting from Creed. You know what I mean? Like it was hard enough and vicious enough to take him out, you know, but he stayed with it, you know, and that was me.
Was there a certain food memory for you that really inspired you to get into culinary arts?
There was a dish. I used to work at a place called the Commissary, owned by Stephen Poses, who was a legendary chef back in Philly, back in the 70s and 80s. By the time I got into the game, and he had a restaurant called the Commissary, and upstairs was a fine dining spot. Downstairs was more like a market kind of cafe, and there was this one dish called the strawberry heart tart. And basically it was a puff pastry heart, you know, and they would fill up the inside with cream cheese and top it with different fruits, strawberries and raspberries, blackberries. It was almost like a fruit tart, but in the shape of a heart, you know. And I thought, wow, you know what? I want to make that, you know, because a lot of people that were coming through would always buy that. And during those times, I was very shy, you know, and it was hard for me to talk to people and everything. And I knew that if I was able to make or create this one dish that people loved, that it would kind of be my conversation piece into, into getting to know people. So trying to kill two birds with one stone.
Right. And we've seen that you've actually transitioned into kind of taking on that mentor role, especially at the Institution of Culinary Education out there in New York.
Yep.
What kind of motivated you to help others and teach them the ropes?
Yep. Well, you know, even during all that tough love phase, when I was coming up in the kitchen, there was one guy who really taught me the love of the game. His name was Al Paris, and he's still a chef in Philadelphia now. Really genuinely kind and great chef, you know, and a good friend. And he taught me the love of the game, that we cook not just to put food on the table, but to bring people to the table, you know, because it's the power of food that's able to provoke conversation, you know, to show love, to help the world, to save the world. And he taught me that what we're doing is so much more than what's right in front of our face, you know? And then I kind of kept that in mind throughout my entire career. And now that I'm at the age where Chef Al was back when he was mentoring me, now I feel like I've taken over, he's passed it on, you know? Now it's me teaching those same fundamental values to other young cooks, you know, and just kind of bringing in some of my own experience through my own life, just like he did, you know, and kind of applying that to the young people now, you know. And some of them get it, and some of them don't, and some of them really can't see beyond what's right in front of their face, and I understand that, you know. But there will come a time when they're going to be able to look up from the plate, you know, and see all the good that they're doing, you know. So that's kind of where my role in mentorship now has become, you know, and the Institute of Culinary Education has provided me this wonderful outlet to where I can be that guy, you know, in their place and be able to do that.
I'm sure these kitchens there really facilitate learning and education. Have you learned things from the youth as well?
Of course, yeah. I mean, a lot of the stuff that they're doing, they're bringing new ideas and that young blood and that fire and passion to the plate every time. I tell them, I say, you know what? I envy what you guys are going through, because I remember the first time that I was able to taste, you know, good sea salt, or a really incredible oil, you know, or an exceptional cut of beef, or my first time eating a protein that was cooked in sous vide, you know, and even though that even at where I'm at now in my career, that you still experience good things like that, but it's almost like you're just bombarded with everything new because everything is new. And that these young people are experiencing that now. And I envy that almost, like, man, like every breath you take is new. Every single thing that you experience is all new, And so they're bringing those ideas and their versions and their ideas of what these new things are to them and expressing it onto the plate, So I'm relearning all that intensity and the newness of what they're going through.
Do you think that sense of collaboration and really sharing new ideas between chefs has become prevalent in today's age?
I think that it always was. You look back where Peter Kump and Julia Child were always doing things with James Beard, like there's always been collaboration, but I think that there are more and more chefs coming out of the woodwork together, because I think that collectively, we can make something beautiful. It's not just about the individual chefs anymore, and because there are still a lot of chefs out there that, as I call it, the Hollywood syndrome, where everything has got to be all about them. Check out my technique, check out what I'm doing, look at what I'm bringing to the plate, look at my restaurant, look at me, And I went through that, it's something that you go through as a young chef, to where you really think that you're God's gift to cuisine, but the more that you grow, it simplifies, to where you don't need 1,001 ingredients on the plate. You don't need to do an entire bag of tricks to show that you're the shit. You don't need to like, come out with like the next greatest molecular gastronomy thing to create something. In the end, a tomato is a tomato. You cut it, some sea salt, some oil, and you're good to go. You don't need to transform it into something else. And I think that a lot of chefs are walking this new path and bringing in their other colleagues, with like-minded kind of ways to where you can say, you know what, it's not about me, it's us, and here's what we bring to the world, So I think that a lot of collaboration these days, goes a long way and speaks more volumes than just one individual person.
Do you think kind of the innovation within technology and social media has given you more outlets to really collaborate with other chefs? I mean, even yourself having more educational content on your Instagram page, has that made life, a little bit better?
It certainly has. I think that because just in one day you can reach, sometimes I look and see how much my reach goes, and sometimes it blows my mind. So where you can put out one post and you're reaching anywhere from 30,000 people in one day. Just one guy just responded to me about some stuff that I was doing on the Epicurious website. I do things on there as well. And he wrote back to me, and he was in Singapore, and he's like, oh, you know what? I tried this chicken technique that you were doing. Thanks for the idea. Thanks for the inspiration, But just in that one day, you're able to put out yourself, and just what you get back are a bunch of people that are like, I want to work with you. You inspire me. What can we do together? Can you speak more about this one thing that you were talking about? You just have more of an outreach, where before, in the old school ways, maybe you were in a newspaper which didn't really get off or outside of your city, so you were kind of only known within your city and only by the people that bought that newspaper for that day. If you were on the Food Network, then maybe you were on something like a show like Chopped or Beat Bobby Flay, to where it's a one-timer. If you happen to catch it that day, then maybe you were on it. The next day, you got a whole different chef. Things like Top Chef, where we were on for, I think, 4 months. If you caught that, then, then there was more. I just think that these opportunities where I'm able to be out there a bit more is beneficial to both the world and myself, you know, because now I have a platform where I can speak about, you know, about food and food history and mentorship and being sober and many things, you know, to where my voice is more amplified, you know, and I'm grateful for that.
Mhm. Now, how have other things such as you know, Google reviews, Yelp reviews, and things of that nature kind of influenced the food world?
You know, I mean, I would say that I speak for more than 50% of chefs when tell you that Yelp reviews are one thing that we do not care about at all. You know, I mean, I get it. I know the concept of Yelp and this and that. You know, and if you look back on, you know, some of even my own restaurants, that the Yelp reviews have been pretty much positive, you know, but still it's like it's that platform to where people just get really evil and vindictive and talk about things that are beyond the food, you know, and just get outright nasty, you know, and to where they think more of themselves than what they should. You know, I think that in most restaurants where you have a connection between, you know, yourself, the people at your table, yourself, your server, the chef, you know, it's very communal, to where if there is an issue, which is a very real thing in restaurants or anywhere, you know, you drive your car, you might scratch your car, you want to talk to the person, you're not going to Yelp about it. You know, you go to the shoe store, you know, oh, this shoe doesn't fix it doesn't fit. Can I get a different size? You know, if something's wrong with your experience at the restaurant, you can reach out to your server or whoever, and I'm telling you, they will bend over backwards to fix it. You know, any good spot would do that. But these days, you know, you got a lot of Yelp folk that just want to talk shit just for the sake of talking shit. You know, so I think with that and some of the Google reviews, a lot of chefs don't really care about it. Now, my wife, on the other hand, when we go out to different cities, she will look up Yelp stuff, you know, to say, you know what, maybe this can gauge if we're going to go to this place or not, you know. But I guess because I kind of have the inside scoop, you know, of chefs and what the vibe is like all across the country, I know what places to go to or not, regardless of guest commentary. You know what I mean?
And of course, being a seasoned veteran in kind of fine dining and finding the best restaurants, besides Philadelphia and New York, is there a certain city that has a special place in your heart for wanting to go out to eat?
Well, you know, I mean, I have friends in different parts of the country that are doing amazing work. I mean, I got my friends out in Portland, you know, that are doing some really good stuff. Gregory Gourdet, BJ is doing some good stuff out there. You go out to Denver with Kerry and Blake Edmonds, you know, and Brother Luck. You know, those guys are really rocking out in Colorado. You go up to Hartford, where my friend Tyler, you know, is doing his thing out there. You know, my man JJ up in Harlem. I mean, you go almost to anywhere. I can kind of point you in the right direction for almost any city where you want to go eat. Call me, and I'll tell you what spots to hit up.
Hold on to that.
Right on.
Now, Chris, kind of bringing it back to some of the moments of adversity that you kind of touched on. And you spoke to us a little bit before the interview about how you've been 7 years sober. First of all, I wanted to commemorate you for that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Now, how has that experience kind of influenced the rest of your life and where you are thus far?
Yep. I think that, you know, getting sober or being able to walk up to that walk to where you're ready to make a change in your life. You know, a lot of people struggle with that. I think that there are tons of people that really want to be sober, but sometimes can't find the strength or you know, it's hard for them to drink from the well, you know. But it's once you really begin to do that, you begin to really discover a lot about yourself, and then you discover that the drinking aspect of it is just a byproduct of what's really happening in your spirit. You know, it's always a bigger monster, where the results of that are drug abuse, alcohol abuse, depression. You know, all of those things are side things to the bigger issue. Once you're able to kind of really get yourself clean, you know, now you're really beginning the real work. You know, now let me deal with me and the issues that caused me to drink, that caused me to drug, that caused me to be depressed, you know. And you begin to discover a lot about you, you know. And then once you begin to discover that, you learn how to fix yourself. And it's never fast. You know, I've been sober for 7 years, and there are still elements of me that I struggle with all the time, you know. But I'm in a way, way, way better place than I was 7 years ago, because now I know how to deal with it more openly, I'm more brave to walk to the table, where before you would kind of run from it, run to a bottle, run to whatever, you know. And then you really see true growth, you know, in your spirit, in your mind, in your body, the way you carry yourself, the way that now you love yourself. You know, you eat better, you sleep better. Some people, they turn to working out, you know, and you really transform your life, like right before your very eyes. You know, you get to a part of your life to where you're just like, holy shit, I can't believe that I just joined a gym, or I'm seeing a therapist on a regular basis, or now I lost 20 pounds because, you know, I'm watching how I eat, you know, or now all of these great things, like my relationship with my children, my relationship with my wife, my relationship with my family, things that look so bleak years ago are coming together to where it blows your mind, you know. And for me, it keeps me focused, and it keeps me balanced on moving forward. Now, don't get me wrong, just because you're sober doesn't mean that you don't deal with sadness and stress and all that. I mean, that shit still comes, you know, but now you're able to deal with it with a more logical, you know, self, you know. So, and people still reach out to me on a day-to-day basis. When I started talking about my sobriety on Top Chef, people began to reach out to me like, I've been dealing with alcoholism myself, and you inspired me to become sober. You know, you've kind of, your words have changed me to do this. So there are people that have been sober as long as I have, that we stay in touch with. There are people that have been sober for 6 months, 6 days, that have relapsed even, you know, who even get back in touch about how do I get back up, you know, because I've been there all across the board, you know, and whatever I can do to help inspire or help uplift you or keep your spirits moving in a forward direction, that's what I want to do, you know. When you're finished with Top Chef, they always kind of ask you about your experience, you know. So what was it like being on the show? And I told them, I said, me being on the show is bigger than me being on the show. If you could, you know, take that in, you know, because just me and my presence there has touched so many that needed it, that it's way bigger than just me personally and what I accomplished on the show.
Chris, I really appreciate you telling that story. I mean, just from talking to you within 45 minutes here, I've come to realize that you do have a drive for helping people. Where do you think this love for, you know, helping out others and uplifting individuals comes from?
I think from two places. I think that coming up in my house where I grew up, my grandmother was always that way. You know, she would always set an empty place setting at every time that we would eat. You know, it would be like plates for everyone, and then the person that might show up. You know, because she was always willing to feed, you know, someone that was coming through. She was a church lady, and I think that my belief in God and all that has also helped me want to give back. You know, there's a verse in the Bible that my wife, you know, brings up all the time. I think it's where Christ said, you know, in the very end, all we need to do is love each other, you know, and she added on to that, feed each other, you know. So in my mind, like almost the fuel that fuels me along is love each other, feed each other, be there for one another, you know, kind of live your life along those lines. And then everything that you do will kind of fall into place in the good of mankind. You know what I mean? Then you're not looking for yourself. You're not looking for your own success. You're looking to bring the whole group of individuals up. You know what I mean? And just if I'm able to do that through my food or inspiring them through their hearts, you know, that's what I do.
I think that's one of the best mantras towards life that I've heard. I just want to say thank you for doing all this.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, what advice do you think you'd give to any aspiring chefs or, you know, individuals looking to pursue a career in culinary arts?
Yep. Two things. If you don't have the money to go to school, find a chef who you like and reach out to them personally, you know, and offer to stage there. I think that any good chef that's reputable and worth their weight will take you in. You know, we're always looking for help in the kitchen anyway, you know. So if you go to a chef and you say, hey, chef, I'm a young guy, I like what you do, you inspire me. Is there any way that I could give you 10 hours a week for free and I can just learn whatever, you know, like I'll be in your hands. You know, most chefs will say, yeah, come on through. And you kind of learn that. But when you're in that kitchen, make sure that you listen, make sure that you pay attention, make sure that you write everything down, you know, and make sure that you're in there growing what you need to grow for your foundation. And then once you're kind of at that level to where you know the fundamentals, you know how to sear properly, you know how to bake properly, you know how to braise properly, you know how to truss a chicken, you know how to blanch things properly, you know what I mean? Not just kind of going through the motions, but you really know it. Only then are you kind of able to kind of branch out and develop your own skill and style, you know, and then from there you might go to another chef and then another chef and another chef. And then finally you're on the payroll, you know, and now you're getting paid for it. But by that time you're learning so many different styles and techniques that all along your own style is growing as well. And you're learning how not just to cook, but you're learning how to work hard. You're learning to develop a work ethic. You're learning to respect the craft. You're learning to respect the chef and the hierarchy in the kitchen, you know, learning to respect the field, respect yourself, you know. I mean, there's other things besides food that you're learning that's right in front of your face that sometimes you don't even see. You know what I mean? So just pay attention to all the moves when you're in there.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that's one of the most difficult aspects, is developing your own personal style?
I think that if you, like I said, if you pay attention to yourself, you know, then yes. I mean, there are cooks that will just come in there and they just want to do what they got to do and go home, you know. But then there are many other chefs that do what you got to do, but then they take it in and then they kind of play on the side, you know, to develop what they know and applied. You know, now they want to create some dishes that come from a certain place in their background, their spirit, their heart, and apply this braising technique, the blanching technique, the baking technique to something that might speak to them. You know what I mean? And then they develop, and then their style right there is born.
Mm-hmm. And of course, you're very passionate about your work. How do you balance this between your personal life?
Well, my wife, she works with me, so every step of the way, she's right there, and I want her to be right there, and our kids are always close by, and, people always say, don't you get tired of working with your wife all the time? For me, I'd see it no other way. It's almost like back in the day when Pippen always knew to hit Jordan and Jordan to Pippen, vice versa. She knows what's in my heart and the extent of my capabilities and where I can be pushed to be more. You know what I mean? So I always say that I'm the arts and crafts. She's the nuts and bolts, and almost every single thing that we do together, because together we grow.
It sounds like you guys are a real 1-2 punch.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Now, Chris, going into the final segment of our interview is something we like to call the fun stuff. And I'll ask you a couple things about your city there in New York and some overarching trends that we kind of wanted to pick your brain apart. The first one is, what's your favorite thing about New York City? The
diversity, and not just diversity of people, but music, arts, culture, cultural centers, the languages that you hear just walking down the street, the many places to get food. If you ever come to New York, unless you're willing to go to New York or to Manhattan, and pay top dollar for everything, if you want really authentic good food, come to Queens. I'm talking some of the best authentic Filipino grub, Greek, Vietnamese, everything that you want in Queens, authentic and for cheap. Way better than Manhattan by far. But in the end, I think that it's the overall diversity in everything, that keeps me fueled, and excited about this city.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, besides the traffic, what annoys you about New York City?
What annoys me about New York City is how everything's so expensive. When we opened up our restaurant in 2009, 2010, we were paying $4,600 a month. And then January of this past year, we had to close because it gradually worked its way up to 15,000. Yes. 15,000. I mean, come on, and that's the one thing about New York that I hate is that rent is high, it's too expensive, and everything that I was talking about diversity. At one point, New York City was the mecca of culture. You had people from Europe coming here on, back, at the Statue of Liberty and, from all walks of life and bringing their flavor to New York, and now, the only people that can afford the rent, Applebee's, Olive Garden, Johnny Rockets, Starbucks, it's all chains, and it kind of makes me wonder what New York is going to be like in 20 years or 30 years. Is it going to be that place that's so expensive that the only places where you can get food are chain places? You know what I mean? I don't know.
I mean, that jump alone from 4,600 to 15,000 is actually something that when we were doing our research prior to the interview, we read that a bunch of New York restaurants were following the same style as you guys and having to shut down. Do you think there's a simple fix to this problem?
I don't know if it's simple, but I think that people have to think more long-term and think about, they got to stop thinking about that everything is controlled by money. Money's not going to bring you happiness. It's not going to bring you joy. It's not going to be the cure-all for everything. The one thing, that I mentioned that was beautiful about New York was its culture and its diversity of people. And if you begin to push us out, what's New York going to look like? What's New York going to be like as far as government is controlled, as far as the voice of the people is, you know what I mean? Because if all of us are gone and the city just kind of takes over everything, you know, what's that going to look like? You know?
Mhm.
So
I really wanted to ask you as well, what's one dish that you would prepare for every New Yorker and something you really wanted them to try?
wow. I don't know. I don't know. You know, it's people, I guess to piggyback on that question, people always say, do you have a signature dish? Do you have a this or that? And I think that any chef that honestly answers that question is bullshit. Because I answer to it like that. If you go see Led Zeppelin in concert, right? You might know their songs, whatever, but you're not buying a ticket to go see Led Zeppelin just to hear Stairway to Heaven. You know, there's a ton of music that Led Zeppelin has done that's beautiful, and everyone wants to hear that. So when you go see them in concert, yeah, Stairway to Heaven is great, but there's so much more that I want to hear as well. You know, so when you go to any chef who might be known for certain dishes, but there's so much more to them than that one dish. People come to me about, oh, you make the best fried chicken, yada, yada, yada. Oh, your biscuits are the bomb. But if you're only looking at me just with that, you're not really seeing everything about me. And that's unfortunate. You know what I mean? Because there's so much more to me, my style, my background, my story, than just fried chicken and biscuits. You know what I mean? So I can't say one dish that I would make for everyone. How about I cook for them for a week with a different spread every day, and then they can kind of tell me.
Just to build off of the music and Led Zeppelin metaphor, it's probably more about the album and the whole experience than it is about the single.
That's correct. That's absolutely right. Absolutely. Yep.
Now, the one overarching trend question that we wanted to ask you was focused on these new fusion restaurants and fusion style dishes. Do you think this is something that really embraces the collaboration that we're seeing today, or has it been kind of disrespectful towards other cultures?
I think that if you keep the core of their culture intact and you treat it with respect, that is the focus. You know, then the fusion can exist. You know, I think that if you take you know, a chef or an idea or a culture, and your main focus is just to monetize it and bastardize, you know, their culture or whatever, you know, to where basically you don't give a F about the story. You just want to take that culture and bulk it up for the general public to make money, then it's going to fail. It might not be one day, 1 week, 6 months, but it's going to fail because there's no real authenticity to it. You know what I mean? But if you take the culture and you respect it and you know, have pieces of it that you want to share with the world, maybe some that you might want to hold back, you know, and then you groom that and mix it in with the food, the music, everything that you'll experience when you're at this restaurant, you know, then it could be a beautiful thing. Because I think that there's so much to our culture in general, you know, from all walks of life that more people need to know about, you know, than just what's surface. You know, Black people just aren't all about soul food and fried chicken. You know, if you go deeper and understand that, then you can see all the beauty that's behind that person, behind that culture. You know what I mean? And that goes with all cultures. If you just try to take that and mix it up and just give people what you think they want to see, you know, without giving it any regard, any respect, it's probably going to fail.
Mhm. Now, Chris, to give kind of a wrap up today, you've talked about the lessons you've learned from your grandmother and how it's translated into your love for helping others. your Rocky metaphors and Led Zeppelin metaphors that you still use today, and your mantra towards life that I've really appreciated, as well as moments of adversity with your sobriety. Is there anything else you wanted to tell our audience before we let you go?
Keep on feeding the people with love, and when you run out of love, you got to stop and make some.
That was perfect. That was perfect. I kind of kept our promise here. We're just about at an hour. So I don't want to take too much of your day. Of course, I know you're very busy, but I want to say thank you very much. I really enjoyed our conversation today.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed it as well. Hope this time was good for you.
Great time. Great time. Thanks, man.